Hi everyone, I'm Klein. This is my 5 biggest failures in software. So a little bit about myself. I've been a professional software developer for about 10 years now. I've had 6 jobs in that time. And of my 5 previous jobs, I was fired twice. And more recently, I spent the past 3 years here in Colorado. I started at Rally Software in October 2013. And was part of the CA Technologies acquisition. And just this recently, in May, I found another great opportunity at Crown Peak. So today I'm going to be talking about some very personal stories. Times when I crashed and burned and things didn't go so well. I think there's some great value in that. And this actually started with switching jobs in May and thinking to myself, how did I get here? How did I get to the point where I have lots of opportunities? I have a few good opportunities to choose from. I have some privilege in being able to choose where I work. I felt very lucky and very fortunate. And I thought about the different successes and the things that have gone well in my career. And then I thought more about the failures, which really stuck out. I really thought about the times when things didn't work out, and there were times when I had so much to learn, times when I had so much room to grow. And today I'm going to be talking about some things that have happened in my past. I want to say that this is not meant to be critical in any way of any of the companies I've worked for in the past. I'm not going to identify any companies or when they happened. The stories are intentionally out of chronological order. I'll also say that none of these 5 stories relate to my recent past in the past 3 years. So I'd like to start with a quote. It's only when we move away from the idea that we need to be perfect that we will heal ourselves and others around us. I can easily pretend to have my act together, but what good would that do? No one learns anything that way. My onus is never to look good or to be considered perfect. My only mandate is to be authentic and to help release others from inauthenticity. This quote is actually from an interview in the Washington Post from an author of a parenting book. So the context is here is parenting, but I think it applies to a lot of things in life. So I have an interesting challenge here. I have a talk on failure, and I wanted to not let it be negative. I wanted to not let it be about the bad times. And I wanted to figure out, okay, how can I make this actionable? How can I make this useful and practical for everyone here? And it turns out that we as humans are experiential learners. We learn through our experiences. We learn best through our experiences. And it's a fallacy to think that we can teach our children or to teach our students or to teach each other based on our experiences, exactly what they should look for, how to avoid all the pitfalls in life. We can do that all we want. We can read all the books we ever wish we could. We can take stories from our grandparents and all that. But we need to stumble and fall for ourselves. And sometimes it even takes repetition. We need to do it a few times to figure out, yeah, I should really stop doing that. It also turns out that we as humans are really good at pattern recognition. It's one of our greatest traits, one of our greatest mental capacities. So I figured a useful approach is to consider what went wrong in each case, recognize it going wrong, recognize what could we have acknowledged or seen in the stories that were like kind of the red flags, the alerts that we should pay attention to, that this is going downhill fast. And to talk about how we can achieve a better outcome. What are the strategies to, when we see those problems, addressing them, working our way around that to mitigate failure, to mitigate disaster. So we're going to clearly identify some patterns, and we're going to clearly identify some strategies for avoiding things when we see those patterns. So this is actually a bit of a retro and a postmortem on some of my career experiences. And retros and postmortems are fantastic exercises to do in the workplace, with your team or with a project. Hey, how's the last couple weeks gone? What could we improve? Yeah, there's this thing that happened. What could we have done to prevent it? What did we do? Did we do that the way we had hoped that we would do it? So we're going to do a little bit of that today. So let's begin. My first story I call the home run. And this was a time when I was trying to prove myself. And I remember it was in the fall. My manager took me aside, and I was a little worried because I'd been really distracted. I think I was busy planning vacation, and I was showing up and doing as much work as I could, but I was just showing up and just not really giving it 200%, but I was just doing a decent job. My manager calls me in and he says, "Hey, well, you're doing fantastic. Like, I don't know what you're doing, but it's working great, and we really appreciate your hard work." And I thought, wow, okay. I didn't see that coming. That's nice. I don't know why he said that. I don't know why he thought I was doing a good job. I just took it and went on my way. And over the next few months, the project started getting bigger and bigger. And I was actually coming up on my anniversary, and I was thinking, hey, I should ask for a raise. And I thought to myself, maybe after one of these projects when I really kind of do a great job, over-deliver, get it done early, that would be a great time to say, hey, I'm worth more, let's give me a raise. So I kept working really hard. I started putting in more hours. And as these projects started getting bigger and bigger, they kept growing a little bit beyond my capacity. And I struggled with that. And so each time I would fall just a little bit short. Maybe I got it done on time, maybe a little bit late, but I wasn't hitting that home run. And I just kept trying to think, okay, the next project, the next project. So a few months go by, and it comes around to the spring. My manager takes me aside again and says, hey, well, so things aren't going so well. Yeah, you need to do better. I didn't really know why he thought things weren't going well. I didn't really know what he meant by doing better. I was doing all the work I could. I was trying to communicate better and tell people when things were going off the rails with the projects. So I kind of just sucked it up. The thing was that all this time I'm trying to hit a home run. All this time I'm trying to knock it out of the park, really excel in a project, really deliver, really prove myself. I was getting further and further from my goal. And the fundamental problem here is that I had unclear expectations. I didn't have clear goals. I didn't know what my boss was expecting. I didn't know what my company needed from me. I didn't even know for myself what my goals were. I never had that conversation. So some of the patterns here. I had no review structure. So I didn't have a scheduled annual review. There's no company policy for that. I was a smaller company. But I didn't establish at the beginning, okay, this is when we're going to talk about this. So it was kind of flexible. And I figured, okay, I can try to control it. Or maybe my boss can try to control it. Either way, it wasn't fair to either of us. There weren't clear goals, as I said. When we don't have clear goals, we don't know what you're driving towards, it's really hard to get there. And there were no regular check-ins. So I met in the fall, and then I met 6 months later in the spring, and there was nothing in between. It went from, you're doing a great job, to, hey, you suck, what's going on? And not even what's going on, just do better. So let's talk about some of the strategies here. So I think it's really important to have a well-understood review structure. Know when you're going to have that annual review. Is it on your anniversary? Is it sometime that is the same for everyone else? Know when that is. It should be set in stone. And if it's not, set it in stone. Put it in the calendar. Make it fixed. That'll help you later on. It'll help your manager prepare as well. Create and track goals. I mean, you need to know where your destination is. You need to know what's along the way. Otherwise, you're just kind of aiming blindly and hoping you get there. That doesn't work too well in the professional world. And have regular one-on-ones, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly or at least monthly. Make sure you're talking to your manager. Make sure you know how you're doing. Make sure you know how the company's doing. And if we had those, so much could have been avoided. So on to my next story. The harvest. So this is actually shortly after the home run failure. And we kept getting bigger and bigger projects, and got our biggest project yet. And there was this month-long project that was queued up. I'm like, okay, the schedule looks tight, well, let's see if we can do it. Still kind of trying to hit a little bit of a home run. And meanwhile, I was trying to be healthy and fit. I was running a half marathon for the first time, about the second weekend of the month. And I was training for that and all ready to go. Went and did the marathon, the half marathon. And I started going, and I look at my watch, and I'm like, man, I am cruising. I was knocking out of the park with my pace. I was shooting for like an 8:30 mile. I'm running a sub 8-minute mile. I'm feeling awesome. I get to the last mile, and I start feeling a tingling in my fingers. I start feeling like lightheaded. And I'm thinking, wow, I am really losing it. I should slow down. I should start walking. I should just cruise the rest of the way. That would be the healthy thing to do. Well, I kept going. I looked at my watch and I thought, no, it's just like 6 more minutes. I can keep this pace up just a little bit more. Sprint to the finish line. I did it. I set a personal record I'll probably never achieve again. And I felt great for a moment. And then I immediately felt really sick to my stomach. I felt absolutely destroyed, absolutely wrecked. I felt like I totally overdid it. Felt absolutely wiped out and exhausted. So I went back to work the next day. And it actually, sometime that week, I think it was a couple days in, I actually have a heart condition, AFib. And I'd had a few episodes before, for about 1.5 years prior, but they were always like 3 or 4 days and go away. So I got an episode, I'm like, okay, I've overdone it, I just need to sleep a little bit better, I'll be fine. I'll just push through it, it'll be gone next week. That weekend, we already knew we were falling behind in the project. So my boss nicely asked, hey, can you guys work a little overtime this weekend? Really appreciate it, get this project back on track. So, worked through the weekend. I didn't track my time, but then afterwards, my boss asked me, how long did you spend? And I looked at my commits, and I looked at when I started and stopped. I'm like, I worked about 30 hours. And he looked at me like, what? You worked 30 hours? The other 2 developers in the team didn't work like 20 hours. What are you doing working 30 hours on the weekend? I don't believe you. I call bullshit. And I was just a little stunned. I'm like, okay, all right, fine. So I kept working through the week. And I'm just like getting worse and worse. And just like not feeling rested at all, getting horrible sleep, doing the best I can with this project, and totally stressed out. And I get to that Wednesday. And I go to get out of bed, and I'm like ready to pass out. I am just totally lightheaded, want to get out of bed. I'm like, that's it. My body's saying no. So I'm going to call out. So I call out. I rest through the day, pretty much slept in bed the whole day. The next day I get up, same thing. At this point I'm thinking, I should really go to a doctor. I should really go to the hospital. I should get some medical help here. I thought to myself, quite irrationally, if I do that, I'll be in the hospital. I won't be able to help in the project. So I called out that second day. The third day, I still felt the same way. But I'm like, all right, it's the third day. Like, I got to get back to work. That's really important. So I had my wife drive me to work and drop me off. I go in. My computer's locked out. Okay, that's weird. The manager calls me in. Says, so you called out the last 2 days. That's unacceptable. You're fired. I was stunned. I was stunned for a moment. I was confused. And then I felt this wave of relief. I felt so much relief. I was bitter for a long time about that. It was one of the best things for my career, frankly. But I was just so relieved that he pulled the plug. Maybe for the wrong reasons, maybe illegitimately. But in the end, it worked out to be the best thing for me. So the problem here was I worked myself into exhaustion. And I'm not an expert in this, but I've heard stories about like people in Japan working themselves like this to death. Like no heart conditions, just like working themselves hours and hours, putting themselves out there, not taking time off, and just destroying themselves to the point where they just collapse and die. And I don't know if that would have happened, but I definitely was at a very poor point at that point. And I did end up in the hospital, and I did end up getting medical care, and they ended up getting my heart rate corrected. But it was a while. I didn't tend to it like I should have. Some of the patterns here. I worked some really long hours. That can be dangerous. It'll catch up to you very soon. Be very careful of that. If you want to work long hours, and if you feel healthy doing it, that's one thing. But if you're working long hours and you're getting bad sleep, you're getting sick, your productivity's going down, like you're just going down the drain, that's a big red flag. And it's not worth it anywhere. Some strategies to help mitigate this. Limit your work hours. I actually, after this experience, became very sensitive to overtime. I became very sensitive to projects running late, to expectations being too high. And now I make sure that I choose places that truly have a healthy work-life balance. That's very important to me. I try to protect my sleep. I try to have good sleep. I try to keep track of it, so when it is going short, when the quality goes down, I pay attention to that as an indicator. I'm overworked, maybe because of hours, maybe because of stress, maybe because of other things going on outside of it. Those are all things to pay attention to, and sleep is a really good barometer for that. Take time off. Definitely take time off. I really encourage people to know what your time off strategy is, to take a week off sometime in the year, a full week off. Every couple of years, every 2 to 3 years, take 2 to 3 weeks off. It can be wonderful. It can be rejuvenating. It's really important to do that regularly. And ultimately, if you find yourself in that position where you're just at your wit's end and you're unhealthy and it's not worth it, quit. There's nothing wrong with walking away from something like that. So my next story, the ambition. So this was at another point in my career when I'd actually proven myself a few times on some projects, kind of established myself within a team. I was still one of the more junior people on the team. So I had this opportunity to work on a new project that was independent. It really just called for 1 or 2 developers, so I was called in to evaluate it, assess it, figure out what we needed to do. It was a really great opportunity. I was being trusted to lead on a project. Even if it was small, even if it was a couple months, I had a great opportunity here. So right off the bat, I kind of got off on a weird footing. There was a misdependency. I needed some environment set up so I could do my work, and people who needed to do that couldn't do it that quickly. So there were already some misdependencies. The timeline's already a little bit challenged. I was also working in unfamiliar tech. So it wasn't my bread and butter. It required some learning, it required some experience, and work overcoming that. I also had a pushy project manager. This was the kind of person that didn't like to hear no. You probably should tell him anyway, but he really didn't like it. It would make you feel very uncomfortable if you had to tell him, hey, there's something slipping here, we need to do something about it. That first part would really set him at unease. And so I fell behind. It was pretty inevitable. I couldn't help but fall behind. And then after about a month, I went away for a conference. Had a great time at this conference. Met some cool people. When I went back to work, it was like a shock to my system. I'd kind of acclimated myself to this stress and this pressure. But when I went back after being out of it for a few days, all of a sudden I was just like, whoa, what's going on here? All of a sudden I just feel overwhelmed. My manager knew things weren't going well. She knew that the project was a little bit behind. She knew that there were some challenges. And when she saw me out of character, she saw me not being myself, she took me off the project. She just took me off and said, Will, I'm taking you off the project. This isn't going well. I'm going to put 2 other people from your team on it. They're going to handle it. This was actually a really good thing, by the way. But I essentially dropped the ball. I essentially had my first moment of trust in this team where I could take something for myself, run with it, and I failed to ask for help. I failed to recognize the problems that were happening. So my problem here was, it was really blind ambition. I was so focused on, this is my chance to prove myself in this team, in this company, on this project. I was so focused on that ambition. It cost the project months. It cost the project switching me out, bringing in 2 other people, and going from there. I didn't want to appear incapable. I didn't want to ask for help. I was trying to be more senior. And the funny thing about being more senior is, really senior people are really comfortable at asking for help. They're not afraid to ask for help. They know what it means to not say something, and what it means to the project, what it means to the company. So some patterns here. There was lack of experience, not just in me, but in the team as a whole. I didn't have someone more senior on the team that could pick up that slack, that could raise the flag and say, hey, things aren't, the scope here is poorly defined, or things aren't well sized, things that will affect the schedule. So without having somebody to recognize those smells and those problems, hey, we don't have a clear definition of what the work is, hey, we don't know how big that work is, we weren't able to size things correctly, and we didn't know our schedule was slipping. There was no way to really know, hey, we're in trouble. So some strategies for something like this. Having a senior mentor, whether it's on your team, on the project, or just somebody else in the company you can talk to, or just somebody someone elsewhere, another area, another company even, that you can say, hey, here's how my project's going. What do you think? And they'll ask the questions that help you arrive at, oh yeah, there's some problems here. Define scope. Always make sure your project scope is defined and you've agreed to what you're going to do. That wasn't the problem here, but I've seen it be a problem in other things. Sizing, yeah, make sure those stories are well sized. Make sure they're broken down into pieces that can be completed in a week, if not just a couple days. And respect those projections of, given the size of the work, given our timeline, things are slipping. Because I could even tell things were slipping. And I was having trouble communicating that. I was having trouble proving that and explaining that. And even if I wasn't going to explain it, if they were clear, somebody else would have seen it just right from using the tool. And ultimately, I should have raised the white flag. I should have surrendered and just said, hey, I need help. I could have asked for help weeks earlier, gotten those 2 other senior people on the project, gotten reinforcements, gotten the project timeline updated, gotten everything reset in a way that was a lot healthier for everybody. So my next project is the stall. This is a case where I was on another very small team, and I was working on one major project over the course of a year. And I got to do some cool tech. I got to introduce another product actually. So I got to dabble a little bit in some different things. But I was mostly working this one thing this whole time. I didn't really get to venture out that much. It was pretty self-contained. It wasn't like there's another project around the corner. It wasn't like the tech was changing dramatically. I actually wanted to refactor things into a new back-end framework and a new front-end framework, but I didn't know how. I really just didn't, it was beyond me. I was in a very small team where I had a couple other senior people around, but I was really the person on these projects. And after a year, the project started to kind of stretch out. Things started to slow down. My productivity started going down. Things just took longer. I wasn't sure what was really going on. And then my manager pulled me in and said, hey, Will, let's talk. Things are kind of like, I'm not sure what's up. You know, we kind of thought we'd have this done sooner, and it's been a while. Like, what's going on? You know, you seem distracted. You don't seem to be the same level you were a year ago. What's going on? And he tried to have that conversation. And I really just didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to respond to that. And I was just like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to do better. And I just went back to it. And a few more weeks go on. Nothing really changed, though. I did my best. I'd show up. I would try to focus. But I would just be so easily distracted. I was just so bored. And after a month, my boss called me in and said, I'm pulling the plug. Like, I love you, man, but like, we're a small company. Every person here really counts. And you're not delivering. And he was right. And he fired me. And that was it. And I was just like, wow, okay. I didn't really care that much either. I was so uninvested at this point. I had stalled. I had a huge case of boredom. I was not inspired with what I was doing. I learned some things on my own, really gone as far as I could. Learning in a vacuum is pretty hard when you don't have other people to pull you along to help you figure out how to do those next steps that I want to refactor this, but I'm not sure what that should look like. And there was only so much I could do by myself, and I really struggled with that. I got bored. And I didn't recognize that the whole time. I just thought, you know, I'll just get over this. And it doesn't work that way. There's some patterns here. I didn't realize I was bored. Now I know when I'm bored, but I know it because of some things here. I was usually distracted. I would show up and I'd want to check my email. I would show up and I'd want to check the news. I didn't want to work on the task at hand. I was bored with it. My productivity clearly decreased. I wasn't delivering things as quickly as I had been. I knew that, my boss knew that. I also wasn't learning. I wasn't going beyond the tech within these projects. I had trouble bringing in newer tech that might have kind of revamped things for me. And overall, I felt lethargic. I was calling out because I just didn't feel like going in. And if I went in, I felt lazy. I just didn't feel like passion or energy at all. And when he fired me, I was just like, okay, that sucks, but I don't care that much. That was a really bad place. But it was okay. So some strategies to kind of mitigate this. Stay fresh. Always stay fresh. This is like, keep working on new things, keep challenging yourself, make sure others are challenging you. And sometimes that means changing projects. Sometimes that means changing teams to work with a different group of people. Sometimes that means changing jobs. I've actually found that over the course of my career, I average about 2 years anywhere I go. And I can try to fight it, but every 2 years, things get stale. Things start to stall for me. And I need to change something. I need to change projects. I need to change the way I do things. I need to change my role or even my job. And that's actually a really healthy thing in our industry is 2 years is pretty much the average everywhere. And that creates opportunities for us to take what we've learned, move on, bring it somewhere else. And then somebody from another company can come in and bring in new and fresh ideas. And that's actually a really healthy thing. So this is my last failure. Family. Which is a pretty important topic. So I had this case where I thought I had my dream job. I thought it was, hey, this is the kind of thing I always wanted to do. This looks great. Chance to build something really cool. Chance to have a really big impact. I jumped in, right at the deep end, just jumped in, 200%. Thought, this is great. I love this. I want to work on this. And it went pretty well for a while. Even though I was working long hours, I felt energy. I felt inspired. I felt like I was learning. I love my team. I love the work I was doing. This is exciting. It didn't take a physical toll. I didn't experience burnout like I did in some of these other projects. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed showing up and working 80 plus hours a week at least. I enjoyed being at work, building things, and that was my focus. I spent less and less time with my partner. I spent less and less time at home, spent less and less time with my friends. Our relationship started to fall apart pretty quickly. And I kept thinking, this is my job. This is important. I'm making a paycheck. I'm providing for my family. I'm bringing home value to my family. This is important. This is what I need to do. I kept making excuses. I kept thinking, this is my career. This is like a junction point in my life where taking off my career is a great thing. And I kept thinking about that. I kept thinking about my career and this job, and I didn't think about why I was doing it. And my partner reached a breaking point, and we broke up, and that was it. And for 30 days, the next month or so, I just jumped right back into work. I acted like nothing happened, but something very significant had happened. A huge piece of me had been ripped out, and it took a little bit of time for me to realize just how important that was. It took a little too long for it to have come to that point. So, what I thought about was why I was doing all this. The glory of working on this project and building things started to fade, and I thought, why did I do this in the first place? Why do I have this ambition to have a career? Why do I want to create this value? And it wasn't to build software. It wasn't to build whatever I was building. It was so I could have a good career that provided for something else. And I thought about what that something else was. I thought about the person I got to spend my time with, who was more important to me than anything in the whole world. I thought about what we had dreamed about doing together. I dreamed about having kids together. I dreamed about having this little girl right here. This is Amelia. And I'd always wanted to have this. And here I was at a point where I'd thrown it away. Absolutely made it so she might not even be here today. And I'm really glad that I wisened up and got my head out of my ass, and called up my partner, and fought back choking tears to tell her what I had screwed up, to tell her what was really, really important, to tell her that I wanted a future together, to recognize that my job absolutely sucked, because it wasn't the most important thing. This is the most important thing. And anyone here that's a parent knows that. And if you're not going to be a parent, that's fine too. It's not for everyone. But figure out what's most important to you. Because it may be your job. If you're curing cancer or solving world hunger, God bless you. I think most of us here are building software though. Thank you. So my problem was priorities. I did not have a clear beat on my priorities. I didn't know that my job wasn't most important. I didn't realize that the person next to me was most important. And our future together was most important. It was the most precious thing in the world. And I needed to remember that and not ever forget that again. I want to say that I never forgot it again. I did repeat that mistake again in the future. Fortunately, Amelia's here, my wife is here, and we're doing great. So some patterns here. This one's really about time. Time away from your family, time away from your friends. If you're not close to your family, your friends are very important too. And even if you don't have that, your hobbies, the things that make you you, the things you love to do outside of work, when you start spending less time with them, it's not just a matter of hours. It can also be the quality of that time. Maybe you work 40 hours, but you're really stressed, and you go home, and you just want to sit down and watch Netflix, and that's your time on the couch together. You're not really talking. That's not acceptable either. So watch that time. Protect that time. And some strategies to kind of make sure you don't go off the rails here. Figure out what your work hours are. Figure out, I want to work 40 hours a week, and I never want to exceed that. Or if I do exceed that, I only want it to happen once or twice a year. Figure out what that threshold is for you. Figure out where your stopping point is. Where are you going to draw that line? You don't cross it. Establish your time off strategy. Establish when you're going to take those days off. Establish if you have 20 days out of the year, when are you going to use them? How are you going to use them? Are you going to take a week's chunk at a time and go on a family vacation and get away from it all? Check in with your family. She was trying to tell me things are not good. My friends were trying to tell me, Will, where are you going? We miss you. We're not hanging out anymore. Everybody's telling me this, and I didn't listen. Listen. Listen to all these people that are most important in your life. So I'm going to step back just a little bit here. I want to talk about something a little bit more positive. Still grounded in a little bit of failure. So, another case where I kind of had a dream job. I'm like really happy to start this company. Been there 2 weeks. And pushed some code, went live, went out to our customers, and all of a sudden, nothing worked. The application crashed. There was a JavaScript error that prevented the whole page from loading. Oh no. I just brought down production. And now our users can't use our app. And yeah, I feel a little bit of stress over this. But then the reaction of everyone around me totally changed that. Everybody was very calm and said, okay, what's up? What broke? They just asked. And we looked and we figured out, oh, there's a JavaScript error. And I knew I pushed some code that day, and I looked at it, I'm like, oh, I did that. Whoops. And people were like, okay, all right, let's roll that commit back and push another build. So we do that. And collection came back up. Things were okay. Cool. The interesting thing there was, it was never about blame. It was never about who screwed up. It was about what happened. Okay, let's fix it. And here I was in this work culture that was positive, that was blameless, that was like, hey, let's figure out what went wrong and figure out how to fix it, and then figure out how to prevent that from happening again. And we had a retro. It was a priority one, outage. So we had a regularly scheduled retro to say, hey, what happened? Okay, what did we do about it? What were those right steps? And then we asked, okay, how do we prevent it again? Oh, well, we could probably have some better test automation to catch this JavaScript error. We figured it out. And here I was in this company that lived and breathed this. And it was very refreshing. This was actually just 3 years ago at one of my more recent employers. And it changed the way I thought about working in a team, changed the way I thought about screwing up, changed the way I thought about when something goes wrong, it's not something to fear. It's something to embrace, acknowledge, and then just address. And it was a much healthier way of going about things. So I was fine. I was never in trouble. There was no blame, only accountability. Only growth and improvement. So some strategies in general. Stepping back from all these individual stories, I thought of a few other things that I think are absolutely paramount and absolutely applicable to a wide majority of the things we work on. Having a great culture like the one I just described, where people don't fault you for a problem. When things run late, they want to know. They want to say, okay, how do we help? What can we do about that? Because at the end of the day, it's not life and death. At the end of the day, we're all just trying to work together to build some software. One of the things that can be absolutely essential for this, or absolutely valuable to you, is having a great manager. Having someone that understands you, that has regular check-ins, that when you go off the rails, when you're not yourself, when you're stressed out, they can recognize that. Like that manager I described before that pulled me off the project. It wasn't, hey, Will, I don't trust you anymore. It wasn't, hey, Will, you screwed up, so you're off the project. It was, hey, Will, you're not in a good place right now. And this project's behind. That's whatever. I'm going to put a couple other people on this project. They're going to take care of it. I'm going to put you back on something you know and you're comfortable with. Take a couple days off. Relax. I want you to be healthy. That's what a great manager will do. In addition, or in lieu of a great manager, having some great mentors. People on your team or in the company or elsewhere. People that you can talk to who bring these problems and say, hey, I'm having some trouble with something. Here's what's going on. Where you can just be brutally honest and they can give you brutally honest feedback and tell you, yeah, you should talk to that project manager and say, no, this is going downhill fast. You should ask for help. It's okay. Get that reassurance. I have a 3-month rule. And this 3-month rule is to prevent stalling, to prevent stagnating. So there's always points in our career and our jobs where things slow down a little bit. We know our tech, we know what we're doing, and we're not really that challenged. Maybe the project just needs some maintenance. Maybe there's just a dry spell, maybe you're just in a little bit of a rut. I have a 3-month rule. I'll do that for a week, I'll do that for a month, I'll do that for 3 months. But my point here is, if I spend more than 3 months in this industry, in this career, stagnating, not growing, not getting better, not furthering myself, I am sacrificing a ton of growth right there. So figure out what that rule is for you. For me, it's 3 months. But I'll go into maintenance mode on a project, I'll be in a rut, but if it goes longer than that, I pull the plug. And I will take time off, I will switch teams or projects, I will switch jobs if I need to. Be healthy. I touched on this in my own stories, but what are we without our health? There's that instruction on the airplane where if crisis should arise, we'll drop down the oxygen masks. And they say if you have a child with you or a youngster with you, if that mask drops down, put yours on first. Then put the mask on the child. And the idea there is, if you put it on your child and then you, for lack of oxygen, passed out, there's no one there to help you. And the same applies to everything we do. Is if we're not taking care of ourselves and we're not taking care of our health, if we're burning out, if we're getting sick, and we're getting stressed out, we're actually doing more of a disservice to the people around us, not just at home, but on our teams, our companies. And it's important, it's absolutely paramount to the people around you, your teammates. You take care of yourself, because otherwise you're just not going to be there one day. And know when to move on. The took me a long time to realize, based on boredom, based on health issues, based on stress, based on work culture, that it wasn't a good fit. That I had gained all I can, that it was time to move on. And it wasn't actually until my most recent job change that I really hit the nail on the head, really saw it coming, did what I could to mitigate it, but owned up to it when I saw something else that was like, this is the right thing, to leave something else behind, even if it's great, to find something that was right for me. So you're going to fail. I failed a lot. Like, you can't avoid it. You can try, but that means you're never going to apply for that job you really want. It means that you might never take on that bigger project that's going to really challenge you. It might mean never taking any risks. And when you avoid those things, you're sacrificing the chance to work on something great at a new company. You're sacrificing the chance to grow on some really cool project that might be really challenging, where you might need to ask for help. That might not work out, but there's a lot of growth opportunity there. And you miss the chance to really succeed when you do have those moments where you take on something new, where it's beyond you, and you make it something you can do. Failure is healthy, especially when you learn from it, especially when you embrace it, when you grow and improve from it. I'll leave you with one more quote. Let me think about the people who I care about the most, and how when they fail or disappoint me, I still love them. I still give them chances. I still see the best in them. Let me extend that generosity to myself. Let me realize that my past failures of follow-through are no indication of my future performance. They're just healthy little fires that are going to warm up my ass. This is from Z Frank. It's a video on YouTube called The Invocation for Beginners. My name is Will Klein. You can find me on the Denver Dev Slack at Will Klein, on Twitter at Will's Lab. You can direct message me. You can ask for help. You can ask other people in this room, in this community, for help. Thank you. Do you have a question?
Yeah, just like great talk in general, but you touched on what I think is one of the most pervasive problems in our industry, which is difficult working, putting in too many hours, burning yourself out. Great strategy for watching yourself and monitoring from a managerial point of view, but also from a peer point of view. When you see your coworkers going through it, what do you recommend there?
Yeah. So Jake asked, overwork. These things are a problem for everyone. How do you help others with that? And I think that's a really important way to look at it. This isn't just about recognizing these things for yourself. This is about recognizing these same problems in the people around you. And if you're in a manager role, well, you better be having that conversation to help them. You better be serving that person on your team and figure out what's right for them. And if you're not, if you're just a peer, even if you're a junior, you better be able to have that frank conversation with them and see if you can at least point it out to them. And if it continues, talk to your manager. You're not tattletaling if you tell your manager, my friend here on this team is really struggling. I think they need some help. I think they need some support. Anything else?
Why do you think there's still such a stigma about burnout when it seems to be so common?
Why is there still such a stigma around burnout when it seems to be so common? Oh man. This is America. We're the most productive country in the world, right? We produce so much. We show up and work some of the longest hours, not the longest hours, some other working countries out there. We have such a culture around glorifying long hours, such a culture around glorifying all night long hack fests. And what is that doing to us? How is that really helping us? I think the better thing to be known for is being innovative. And I think we are known for that. I think there's a ton of innovation in our country. And I think there's also a ton of healthy, positive, forward-thinking culture of how can we make our workplaces better? How can we make our lives more fulfilling? So I think it's just our history, and I think we just need to just fight it. and just tell each other it's okay, that we need to take a day off. I tell the people I work with, sometimes you just need to take a mental health day. Sometimes you just need to call out and rest. Not because you're sick, not because you're totally burned out, but because you just need a break. And that's okay. Anything else? Thank you.